all know a guy who only occasionally shaves for big occasions, and it's because that occasional shave really hurts. It's the time of year for big occasions, and yet there he is, suffering with that cheap drugstore razor. Let's help him out. Henson Shaving's line of razors, built with aerospace precision, deliver a smooth shave your dad, brother, and even son can enjoy, eventually. With replacement blades just 10 cents each, you'll buy it once and they'll use it for life. How's that for the perfect gift? Celebrate with 100 free blades on your first purchase, and no subscription headaches. HensonShaving.com/holiday.
Don't forget that your skin is your largest organ, and the sun can be your skin's worst enemy. Dermatologist-recommended Neutrogena products offer the ultimate protection for your skin. From makeup remover wipes to Hydro Boost Water Gel Facial Moisturizer, BJ's has your entire lineup of Neutrogena skincare products. And now through December 3rd, save $4 on any Neutrogena product at BJ's. Love your skin back and save now through December 3rd, only at BJ's.
Hey y'all, how y'all doing today? Thank you for tuning in to the No Fruit Podcast. Today I'm a little solo today because I have a special guest in the building. Now, we throw certain terms around in church and the secular world, calling people brothers and things like that. But at this time, I have my true blood brother in the building. He is an author. He has some music out there. He's done demos. He's on people's soundtracks, things like that. He's a pastor. He's a professor, and he's a real estate guy. He actually owns his own company named Chism HR Consulting. And I would like to introduce to you my brother, Reverend Dr. Michael D. Chism. Hey, bro, how you doing today?
Hey, bro, how you doing? And with all of that you named, I'm also sleep deprived.
Sleep deprived?
Sleep deprived.
And why is that?
Because I'm doing all of that stuff you just named. I don't have time to sleep.
You don't have time to sleep?
Not at all.
Ah. And, I mean, I guess you can't sleep while you're driving.
Not at all.
You need to,
I'll be asleep for real.
I mean, you need to get
the eternal sleep.
Right. I guess you need a armor bearer or something.
No, not at all. I'm okay. Only thing I carry is a laptop. All of those things you named is on my laptop.
I guess that laptop is really important, huh?
It's very important.
Do you have it in more than one place? I mean,
well, I have a flash drive, and but the flash drive gets lost sometimes. And sometimes I do stuff on my phone, but now I do have my phone on me all the time.
Okay.
But sometimes there are some things there's only but so much you can do on the phone.
Right. Right.
So I always have to at least have a laptop, and you try to do stuff at the office, but sometimes the computer's slower at the office than it is on your laptop. So.
Oh no, you're right about that. I understand that.
At least have to keep my laptop working and keep it charged and all that good stuff.
Good. So listen, I have put out there that you are pastoring. What's the name of your church you're pastoring?
Name of the church is Mount Pisgah African Methodist Episcopal Church. It's located at 306 Warwick Road North in Lawnside, New Jersey. Right when you get off the exit of 295 North. When you get off the exit, it'll be on your right-hand side.
So what is it like for a Philly guy to be over in South Jersey?
You would think that just because it's 20 minutes over the bridge, you would think that life would kind of be the same. No, life is totally different. Lawnside is 1.1 miles long.
That's
so
all?
You can walk 10 minutes and be in a whole nother borough. And it's interesting because even though it's a lot of people, there are a lot of people in Lawnside.
Right.
It's still quiet, or I guess because I'm born and raised in Philadelphia, it seems like it's quieter than I'm used to. Mm-hmm. That's why I'm always kind of in Philadelphia doing business. But Lawnside is still historically the oldest borough populated by blacks in the country.
Wow.
So it allows me to still be a part of history.
Right.
Over in Lawnside.
So I think, one of the things that people don't also understand, the historic nature of your church, along with your grave site, because your church actually has a cemetery around the church. So you want to explain one of your more prominent persons that are buried there?
Well, the now Reverend Jarena Lee
Right.
is buried about 20 steps from the front door of our church. And, for those who don't know, she is the first woman licensed to preach in the African Methodist Episcopal Church. And in 2016, at the 200th session of the General Conference of the African Methodist Episcopal Church, she was actually ordained. So we are now, of course, lifting that up.
Right.
In regards to, the historicity of Mount Pisgah.
What was that word again?
Historicity.
That's a straight SAT word for real.
Not at all. Not with the SAT score I got.
Right. That's funny. So in that, as you're talking about just the historic nature of Reverend Jarena Lee, and even the historic nature of Lawnside, do you find that the young people even take any consideration into any of that?
They do, but you just have to package it in a way that makes it interesting to them.
Okay.
A lot of things that you do just kind of start with a conversation.
Right.
And a lot of times it doesn't even have to be a forced, let's sit down and talk to the pastor conversation.
Right.
It's really about like a professor said to me a while ago. You don't know where you're going until you realize where you've been. So in order for me to at least just talk to somebody about what do you want to do with your life, and how do you want to get there. I talk to them about where we've come from.
Right.
And just because we made history, we are a part of history, it doesn't mean that, we are history and that we're not going to make it. So just kind of giving people more of a stake in, what they're a part of. Like what does Jarena Lee mean to them?
Right.
And not make it into a book report.
Right.
But what actually means to them, so that way they at least have some stock in what they do.
So one of the reasons why I asked, especially from the young people perspective, sometimes they don't understand their history and understand, where we've come from and why it's important to understand that sometimes. But I also listen to other pastors like yourself talk about how they're trying to find ways to encourage the young people and even just try to keep them in the church. And I think sometimes that historic piece can help, but I don't think it needs to be the true focus. You get what I mean?
Yeah, with that, with anything, of course, everything has a history.
Right.
But you can either learn from the history, or you can be arrested by your history. And it just all depends on how you couch either one of those areas on, as to how it's going to be presented to quote unquote young people.
Right.
Because we think that we have to do all of these, tricks and gymnastics and, all of these quips and everything to get young people to come to church.
Right.
But the truth is that young people basically do what they want to do anywhere else in life. And they don't have to know the history of a video game to play it.
You're right.
They don't have to know the history of a racy novel to read it. Why do we think that we have to, lean and rely on the history of a church for them to come to it? It's a matter of, church should be a building or a community for all generations. And it's just a matter of still presenting the same message, because the message hasn't changed, but the methods have to change because you're talking to different generations. So you keep the message the same, but you just have to kind of, you may have to change the method up a little bit.
So in that, do you think that because I see a lot of churches are really going to this true performance method. Do you think that's, in your opinion, I understand it doesn't work for everybody, you get what I mean, but in your opinion, do you think that's the way you would want to go?
No, yes and no.
Mm-hmm.
I say yes and no because there's a fine line, and a lot of artists, even gospel artists will tell you, there's a fine line between ministry and entertainment.
Right.
And I think in order for, ministries to survive and for services to be lively, you have to walk the line between still doing ministry, but still making it enjoyable,
Right.
for the people that come. I heard someone say before, that people don't come to church to see ice melt; they come to see fire burn. So, and not to say that the service has to be cold or as they say, it has to be traditional.
Right.
But if people are going to take time out of their schedule to come to church every Sunday, then they at least have to be able to at least come with enjoyment.
Right.
And then maybe even leave with some type of, I'm glad to be here. Because if we recite, every Sunday, I was glad when they said unto me, what type of enjoyment are you receiving, or what type of enjoyment have you received?
Right.
Being in the building.
Yeah.
So if you're not, happy about being there, then nobody else is going to be happy about being there.
And I think sometimes that just my own conversations with people or whatever else, I think sometimes we get so caught up in the tradition that it makes people not like they're going almost like I'm going to a job. Also where other not opportunities, but there are other positions that they may have, whether it's they're ushering or they're a steward / deacon or whatever it might be. They almost feel like it's a job sometimes versus a, I'm going here happy, I'm going to have a good time in the Lord, that type of thing.
Well, when it's almost like, quote unquote, like you're forced to go because you have to serve.
Yeah.
Because there may be no one else to do it.
Right.
Then it's going to become a job like anything else, even outside of the church.
Right.
If you feel as though if you're the only person that's going to do X, Y, and Z, then it's going to feel like I have to go because I have to do. And, once I don't have to do it anymore, then that's where it's going to come in. Am I really coming to serve? Am I coming to be served? Or am I coming for nothing other than to give God his praise?
And I think that's a fine line for some people because, we get caught up in some of those other things. So yes, you're asking those questions, but I just want the listeners to know, like, that's really there's no particular, I don't believe that there's a true answer to any one of those. It's just all within yourself. And you got to be able to understand that.
And you have to be able to understand other people because there are some people that will come and tell you that, of course, there's nowhere in the Bible that says that you have to be a member of the church. And while, yeah, that's true, but where do you find, did you find Jesus ever not going to the temple? When he was 12, where was he found? In the temple teaching.
Right.
So why is it that we feel as though that that church was good enough for Jesus, but it ain't good enough for us? Like, I can praise God at home. I can do this at home. I can do that at home. Yeah, but it's more it's more to church than just that. Because if that was the case, then right, you can praise God in the frozen food section of the market, but you don't. You can praise God in your living room, but you don't.
Right.
So if you're going to praise God, then where are you going to praise God at if you believe that God deserves your praise? So it really comes down to, how you see, because a lot of people will put on the church, well, they just won't won't get rid of the tradition. No, you don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. There's a reason why the tradition is there, but instead of throwing it out, you just grow on it. Like, it's not just because, remember, every order of service is only a guide. It's not end all be all. It's not black and white. And remember, it's all context, because what I can say is not all black and white. Church 2 blocks down the street, it says, no, this is what the order of service says, and this is what we're going to follow, and that's it. And that works for them. You just have to find what works for you and what works for your people, because young people, older people, they just want to see that you're authentic in what you do. They're looking for authenticity. They're not looking for what another church does or whatever the case is. They want to see that you are who you are. If you want to reach people, just be who you are.
Right. Yeah, that's I just want y'all to be able to, as you're listening to this, I want you to like, share, and subscribe this episode. I would love for y'all to comment and say what's going on in your church. Do you feel like, things are going on in your church? Are they authentic, or do you think it's performance-based? Do you think they're putting on for something else? And have you brought anything back to your church that, that will make it more, I don't want to say appealing, but like, for a better term, appealing to you and for those persons that are at the church? So it doesn't seem like it's the same old all the time. I think that's the other thing too. People kind of get caught up in that repetition thing, and it can seem dry and die off and things like that. But but before we go any further, I know we keep talking about this tradition and thing about ancestors and history and things like that. So as I mentioned, Michael is an author also, and his book is Messages from Our Unknown Ancestors. What made you even come up with that?
Well, I've written at least 3 different dissertations from undergrad to postgrad, dealing all surrounding the Negro spirituals. So the Negro spirituals have always had a place in my heart. Why? Because we only celebrate our ancestors, or I've seen that a lot of people only celebrate our African American ancestors 28 days a year, and if it's a leap year, 29.
Right.
But then after those 29 days are up, what about the other days during the year that your skin color hasn't changed? The music hasn't changed. The music hasn't lost its importance. But it seems like the messages get lost once February is over.
Right.
So the premise behind the book was we have these songs that were written by unknown persons who were in a situation that they tried to run from, get freedom from, were forced into. But these songs were birthed out of, this era in human history where they were able to see hope in an otherwise hopeless situation.
So, how does that apply today, though?
Well, I mean, there might be persons that read the book or that, that I come in contact with or might come in contact with. They might not be dealing with physical slavery.
Right.
But they might be dealing with a mental slavery.
Right.
They might be dealing with an economic slavery, a financial slavery, or just a situation that seems hopeless.
Right.
So I wanted to just kind of, lift up the fact that there are messages, there are some coded messages, and there are just some, straight out messages from our ancestors that teach us that we can, still have hope, that we don't have to live sorrowful 365 days a year.
Right.
Because you're listening to somebody who you don't know their name, but they're singing songs that don't that not only speak to their reality, but it speaks to their future as well.
Mm-hmm.
So we only, a lot of us only live day by day.
Right.
While our ancestors had to live, they had to live day by day, but their minds were looking toward the future.
Right.
So we can even take that from them, like, you might be living today, but what about tomorrow?
Mm-hmm.
What are you going to do about tomorrow? How are you going to get free so that you can get to tomorrow?
Right.
So that was kind of the catalyst that pushed me to write this work.
So, what do you think is your true influence from that? So as you had written the book and, you and I talked about it for some time off and on, things like that. I know for myself, as I listened to you talk about it and like you said, your works throughout the years, your writings throughout the years, it really made me think about one of our organists that we had grown up under at the historic Jones Tabernacle AME Church in North Philadelphia, was the Mrs. Lois Norris, and just how between the anthems and things like that, they used to sing. They used to sing a lot of Negro spirituals. I mean, she's one of those persons that contributed a lot to the AME hymnal. So it made me think about a lot of that we had grown up under, and that type of influence from a musical perspective. Did any of that really influence you at all?
Not for this work. She influenced me more in regards to just the seriousness of music in totality.
I got you.
But for this work in particular, it was just life.
Okay.
Of course, I wasn't the best child growing up. And I was on punishment for a good portion of middle school. And I felt like I had no hope, and all hope was lost. And,
right.
And I didn't want to be in this world anymore. And like, seriously.
Let me tell y'all, my mom prayed a lot.
Yeah, she prayed a lot, and so did everybody else. And I prayed more than she did. But all jokes aside, there was a moment that I didn't want to be here anymore.
Right.
And I went to a service, and I heard the song, "Soon I Will Be Done with the Troubles of the World, Going Home to Live with God." And once I heard that song, it kind of spoke to me.
Okay.
And it was like, soon didn't mean tomorrow.
Right.
Soon didn't mean next year, but I knew that at one point or another, I was going to be able to go home and be with God.
Right.
So it allowed me to be able to endure the very thing that I was trying to escape from. And that song has always been, I've always carried that song with me.
Right.
And then once I was able to kind of start working with more of the spirituals and learning learning not all of the spirituals, because there were over thousands of spirituals.
Right.
And there are some songs that people will say it's a hymn, but it's actually a spiritual.
Mm-hmm.
Some people think that a song is a spiritual, is actually a hymn. So just teaching people the differences between the spirituals and the hymns.
How would they even find that difference, though?
Just a lot of research.
Okay.
Most of the time, a hymn has an author. A spiritual doesn't.
Got you.
A spiritual might be arranged by an author.
Right.
But most of the time, a spiritual literally has no author. Because it's passed down from generation to generation.
Gotcha.
Because it wasn't until around the 1940s, 1950s that the Fiscal Jubilee singers are the ones that first actually were actually asked to sing the spirituals, but they were arranged by somebody else.
Gotcha.
So that's one of the major differences between spirituals and hymns. And a lot of the songs that we even sing today, their base comes from the spirituals, like that call and response pattern, that comes from the spirituals.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the beats that we have for our songs, like the rhythm and blues and jazz,
Right.
That comes from the Negro spirituals.
Right.
So why is it that we only give importance and we only give our thoughts to the spirituals in February when our lives are literally even inundated with the music that we listen to on a daily basis? That beat has been flipped over time and time again.
Right.
But the base of that beat or that rhythm, comes from the Negro spirituals.
Right.
And then, of course, it gets into the messages of the songs.
Mm-hmm.
And even though, the situation is different, people are still the same.
Right.
People are still hurting. People still need to escape from, at times, reality, and they can't.
Right.
So what do? The answer isn't always let me take myself out of here.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes the answer is endure until times get better.
Right.
How do you endure? You take your there was an interview of a former slave that I read about where the slave was interviewed, and she actually said, even though my body was bound, my mind was free.
Mm-hmm.
Because if a person has you bound mentally,
Right.
then your body's going to do whatever your mind tells it to.
Right.
If somebody, if your mind is free, then your body is just going to do, your body's not going to follow, which is why you're going to always be fighting for a better day.
Mm-hmm.
So, with the songs by themselves, it should be able, even if you don't even sing it, just read the words.
Yeah.
And sometimes just reading the words is enough to be like, you know what? I can handle this.
Right.
But we only read them for 29 days.
Yeah.
So, I did 31 just so that people can see that, one, this is not just a book for Black history,
Mm-hmm.
but this is a book for any month of the year that you want to start and finish it.
Right.
But I do want to, for anybody that does want to buy it, they can purchase it at least for the month. I will be doing a Black History Month special
Okay.
where anybody can buy the book, a signed copy of it for $10.
Okay.
So from February the 1st to February 29th, if anybody wants to buy Messages from Our Unknown Ancestors, a 31-day devotional guided by the Negro spirituals, if you want to buy it and you want a signed copy of it, they're all going to be for $10.
Okay.
So, yes.
And so how do they find that out? Where do they get that?
They can, of course, go online, go on Amazon. They are actually on iBooks as well if you do the electronic version. But if you would like the signed copy, then you can just find me on Facebook or Instagram and send me your information. And then what I will do is I will, once I've received payment, then I will mail you the books.
Right. Okay. All right. Well, I appreciate you coming in today and talking with me for a hot second.
No problem.
And, but on Facebook and Instagram, where exactly can they find you? What's your names on those? What's your handles on both of those?
My handle on Instagram is MDCHISM. And Facebook is Michael Chism, I believe. MICHAELCHISM.
Okay. And I thank y'all very much for listening today. Is there anything else you want anybody to look up for you or connect with you any other ways?
Well, my personal Facebook page is the main way. Instagram is like secondary. I guess on another episode we'll talk about I do real estate as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I do have a real estate page, Michael Chism Realtor, I believe it is.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where, I do send updates, on that page as well, in regards to just some things that people can do, getting ready, going to the spring Of course, a person's going into tax season and you're looking for, a different home,
Right.
Then you have information there to contact me there as well.
Okay. All right, Mike, I thank you very much for coming in today. And to our listeners, make sure you get fit. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And Kyle will be back in our next episode, y'all. Thank y'all very much for tuning in. Talk to y'all later.
Thank you.
We all know a guy who only occasionally shaves for big occasions, and it's because that occasional shave really hurts. It's the time of year for big occasions, and yet there he is, suffering with that cheap drugstore razor. Let's help him out. Henson Shaving's line of razors, built with aerospace precision, deliver a smooth shave your dad, brother, and even son can enjoy, eventually. With replacement blades just 10 cents each, you'll buy it once, and they'll use it for life. How's that for the perfect gift? Celebrate with 100 free blades on your first purchase, and no subscription headaches. HensonShaving.com/holiday.
Don't forget that your skin is your largest organ, and the sun can be your skin's worst enemy. Dermatologist recommended Neutrogena products offer the ultimate protection for your skin. From makeup remover wipes to Hydro Boost Water Gel Facial Moisturizer, BJ's has your entire lineup of Neutrogena skincare products. And now through December 3rd, save $4 on any Neutrogena product at BJ's. Love your skin back and save now through December 3rd, only at BJ's.